Welcome back. Now, for newer subscribers, this is what I would call a madness board. This is where the stats have gone to madness levels. Madness is measured by just how many numbers, or in this case, magnets, are on the board. There's too many. It's madness. With the same idea as the cork board and the string. It's the same idea. So I not that many days ago I looked at teams with some poor statistical numbers. Now we want to look at some teams with good statistical numbers. A completely different set of teams here. You'll notice though that when it comes to scoring, the Northern Division is doing a lot of it. Now power plays. What's interesting is there's a tie at the top of the board for that between Florida and Washington at 37%. Not entirely a surprise. A little bit of a surprise. Edmonton's not in this list, but you get the feeling it's a yet situation. Toronto 36.6%, Chicago 35.6% on the power play. That power play combined with the goaltending of Kevin Lankinen is why Chicago's 6-4-4 right now. Penalty kill, Colorado 89.7% on the penalty kill. Bruins at 87.8%, Anaheim 86.5%. So Anaheim, their downfall is their power play. And Minnesota 86.4%, and Minnesota as well. Their power play has been an ongoing issue. Goals for per game. Montreal, I don't need to tell you, 4 goals per game. Now, if you take out the games against Vancouver, it's lower than that, but that's not how this works. Tampa Bay, 3.82 goals per game. Vegas, 3.7, and Toronto right behind them with 3.69. So again, Toronto's playing Montreal the day I'm recording this, and therefore, good chance we're going to see a lot of goals between those teams. Goals against per game, leading the board there is Tampa. It's just why I'm wearing Tampa gear, because Tampa's on the board a lot. They're scoring 3.82. They're allowing 1.82. Nobody should be surprised they're 9-1-1 because those numbers are pretty hard to beat. Colorado 2.18 goals against per game. Boston again in the running 2.18, and Dallas 2.40. I have no doubt that Dallas and Boston are able to keep the puck out of their own net. The question I've always had with Dallas is, can they score enough goals to make it count? Shots against per game. Boston's only allowing 23.5. Vegas is only allowing 25. Carolina's only allowing 25.2. And Colorado's allowing 26.4, which means Tampa Bay's not on the board. So they're only allowing 1.82 goals against per game, and they're not one of the best in the league at shots against per game. So, again, it speaks well of Vasilevsky, who's not going to get a lot of attention right now because they're scoring almost 4 goals a game. You don't notice the goaltender as much when you're winning 6-1 rather than 2-1. Shots for per game. Montreal, 34.5 shots per game. They're doing very well there. Carolina, 32.4. So what's interesting is Carolina at 32.4 shots for, 25.2 shots against. It reminds me of the 2018-2019 season when the Carolina Hurricanes started out with a tremendous amount of shots right out of the gate, and then it petered out. And their shots against were low that year as well, and yet they weren't winning that many games. And then when they stopped shooting from all over the ice, they started winning more. Tampa Bay 32.4 as well. Vegas 32.3, and Buffalo and the New York Rangers 32.2 shots per game. So where you see a team that might have a lot of shots per game, but they're not getting as many goals, there's 2 reasons for that. Either they don't have that goal-scoring skill to get her done, or they're shooting from all over the ice. And so they may not be getting a lot of high-danger chances. It may be a combination of both of those things. First period goals, Edmonton leads there with 20. Montreal 16, Columbus 16, and Tampa also has 16. So again, teams in the North are scoring a lot of goals. Goals against in the first period, you don't see the North on that one. 5 for Boston, 5 for New Jersey, 6 for Colorado, and for Dallas. So these teams very good in the first period. Goals for in the second period. Yeah, Montreal's here again with 20. So very consistent. No matter what period you're in with Montreal, you have a chance of allowing a goal or two. Washington, 20 goals in the second period as well. The LA Kings, 18. And then Dallas and Toronto with 16 each in the second period. So Toronto very good in the second period. Again, the North pretty darn good at scoring goals. Goals against in the second period. Tampa Bay has 3 to lead the league there. Carolina has 5. Montreal has 6. So Montreal has outscored their opposition in the second period 20-6. So you want to look at Montreal and how to avoid losing to Montreal. Stop them in the second period. You have a much better chance. Arizona and Florida also have allowed 6 goals in the second period so far this season. Third period, goals for Philadelphia, 21. Considering the losses they had from blown leads against Boston, I'm actually kind of surprised to see them at the top of that board. Vancouver has 20. So when you're behind by like 8 goals coming out of the second period, like Vancouver is regularly, you'll pile on some goals in the third. They've also played more games than everybody else, so it's in 16 games. Boston, 19 goals in the third period. The Nashville Predators, Edmonton Oilers, and Toronto Maple Leafs with 17. So that's 1, 2, 3 in the North. Here's the North. Here's the North, and there again. There it again. So, yeah. Goal scoring, pretty prominent there. Goals against in the third period, 4 for the New York Islanders, 7 for Calgary, and 7 for Dallas. So Calgary's very good in the third period, and we see that when we get over to this part of the board where I've added stuff that I didn't cover when I was talking about teams that are struggling this year, because you got to add new stuff. So OT goals, already Minnesota has 3 this year. So this means either they're really good in key situations or they're not able to win a regulation. Again, it depends on how you frame it, right? Face-off percentage, Boston leads there at 56.7%. Bergeron does play a large role in that. Buffalo, 55.9%. So what's interesting is that if you're a Buffalo fan and you're looking for positives and saying, all right, this year won't be like every other year, you can look at shots for, you can look at face-off percentage and say, you know what, there are some positives here. While we may not be getting as many wins as we'd like, there's reason to be optimistic. Once we get back to playing games, that things will turn around. Wins trailing after 2, which are hard to come by, and it gets harder and harder to come by those as the season goes along. Both Winnipeg and Pittsburgh have come back 3 times in the third period in order to win their games. Wins trailing after the first period, Winnipeg has 4, Pittsburgh, Calgary, and Florida have 3. So again, with Calgary, they're very good in the third period. They do have 3 comeback wins when they were trailing after 1 period. Calgary's trying to rely on that playbook they had a couple seasons ago where they were the comeback kids and the cardiac flames. And I don't know if that's going to work long term. It'll be interesting to see if those numbers change. Again, it's most impressive how Tampa's been good offensive and defensively. They don't have the top power play. They don't have the top penalty kill. They're not putting up the most shots, or the fewest shots against. Sorry. They are getting some of the most shots, however, per game. And again, the goals against per game, very, very impressive. Out of all this, it's highly likely we're looking at a future Stanley Cup champion. And being on the board probably multiple times. Vegas has been favored. Colorado's been favored. Tampa as well. When you pick multiple teams like that, you got a better chance of hitting on one of them. The one question I have is, with all the goals being scored in the North, and there have been a lot, and goals against being a challenge, it seems, for a lot of Northern Division teams, does this mean that the team in the North is getting into some pretty bad habits defensively that costs them when whoever survives that division to get into the semifinals plays against an American team that might be playing very, very well defensively and playing a completely different style of hockey? That's the question I've had since the season started, kind of since before the season started. We'll see how it turns out at the end of the year. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.